We're back in the saddle again here in Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club for show number 766. My co-host, Julie Vatican, who is Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, my esteemed landlady and all-around good lady, here back in the saddle.
Yes.
We haven't done a show now in...
It's been too long.
How long? I mean, a regular show at 1300 in a week and a half. So we're back at it. I'm your host, Tom. As you know, it's the Tom and Julia show as usual. We got a lot of folks on here already from around the world. Joe Cool, I think, was first one on today. Rick Bannero, Chris Gillingham, and Chris Fury down in Melbourne, Australia, and Clayton Embley. I want to say, Clayton Embley, Julia, we got to start with Clayton Embley. Do you know that you have a coffee drink named after you thanks to this show and Clayton Embley?
No.
You have a coffee drink named after you.
Yes.
And apparently putting bourbon cream in one's coffee.
Oh.
And this was the bourbon cream that was sent to us by Clayton Embley. And this bourbon cream now in coffee is better, I guarantee you, than the other. What's Mario Schumann put in his coffee? Bailey's.
Bailey's. Yeah.
This is better, I guarantee you. And to help us get this show on the road, Julia, I thought you hold your coffee over. Julia's had a 2-coffee show. Usually I fix her a coffee before the show. But she said today she needed a second coffee.
But now it's going to get better. Thank you.
Oh, my.
Whee, good.
So that ought to tune things up. Thanks to Clayton Embley.
Thank you, Clayton.
And his bourbon cream, and that is called a Julia coffee in Kentucky now.
Wow.
Or so Clayton tells me. So tune that up, if you will. And thank you, Clayton. We're looking forward to another great show, especially now that we got Julia tuned up with some of your bourbon cream.
Right.
Alan Long in Texas, Ed Worley down in SoCal. He's done us another America's Cup trivia, which I did not get in the show today, Ed. Thank you. But we'll do it on Friday. We're going to do a regular show. We're going to do 5 shows in the next, until through Sunday.
Yeah.
Today, 2 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 0500 watch parties. Martin Latimer in Glasgow. Hello, Martin. Nice to have you on. Hamish Ross is down in wet Auckland, he says, where it's what time in Auckland? 0904. It's not that bad because they're now on summertime. We are off in another month.
Yeah.
So it's 4 hours and then it becomes 3 hours Delta. Claire Harrington is on, the Vice Commodore, the esteemed Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. She sent me some photos through from the Pell Cup and the Ida Lewis Cup. We'll run those on Friday. Those are trophies that long ago were awarded, were big deals. They're a little less now that there's a Louis Vuitton Cup. We'll explain those trophies, and Claire was at the presentation today representing the New York Yacht Club.
Right.
And those 2 trophies were awarded back in the 60s, 70s, 80s in Newport days, when the America's Cup was in Newport. And cool trophies, a cool history, cool tradition, and they were awarded today at the Real Club Barcelona. And Claire was there, of course, representing the esteemed New York Yacht Club. Who else is here? Alan Long. Yar Vahe's ready to rumble. Hamish Ross, thinking of all our friends in Florida at the moment. Jody Shields is also in a wet venue in Wangi, a wet Wangi. Hello to all of you. Speaking of Florida, Hamish, we've got to look in on this hurricane. This is a shot from early this morning as Cat 4, Hurricane Milton. It's been back and forth between a 3, 5, and a 4, but it's a big storm. It's a wide storm, and it's heading for Florida's west coast. So, of course, we checked in with our Sailing Illustrated weather guru, Mark Michelson, this morning, who's up in Idaho. And as of a couple hours ago, he said Milton is making a comeback as the core pressure significantly drops again. I was hopeful that Milton had suffered a debilitating punch to the northern side of the storm earlier today. No such luck. The latest recon flight found dropping core pressure. The satellite signature has also improved significantly as very cold cloud tops have completely wrapped around the core again. A more easterly track has also resumed with a northward turn expected today. More on that later in the show. In other bad news, The shear over the northern Gulf of Mexico is forecast to retreat more to the north, thereby removing some of the potential dampening effects we were hoping for prior to landfall, which I guess is tomorrow night or early Thursday morning, Florida time. The official track has been nudged to the south a tad, and I suspect in response to the more easterly track the storm is currently taking. That our Sailing Illustrated weather guru, Mark Michelson, from about an hour and a half ago, his 11 a.m. report. Now, further to all that, as you know, we have a lot of FOSI up and down the
Yes.
Florida west coast and up around the Gulf Coast, all the way over to New Orleans, all the way over to Houston, Texas, and a great sailing area that is on our third coast here in the U.S., the East Coast, the West Coast, the third coast, the South Coast, and we think of the Great Lakes as a coast as well with Canada. But this storm, just 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene went up that side of Florida, is going to be even worse, it sounds like. So I checked in with our Super FOSI in Tampa this morning. Do you know who this is, Julia? Bill Wingrove,
Yeah,
Davis Island Yacht Club, champion J24 sailor, and all-around good guy.
Yep.
And I talked to Bill this morning by phone for a few minutes. Stan?
Oh, we're planning to run away, Tom. Run away.
What's
Isn't
that?
that what Monty Python said?
Yeah.
Planning to run away.
So where are you now, and what's your next 24 hours look like?
Right now, I've just emptied out the garage. We got my old Chevelle Super Sport loaded on the trailer with a couple motors and pieces, and headed to my brother's shop to store them inland. And then got to go pick the old J24 up from Davis Island and head inland to Plant City, my son's house, about 25 miles inland, and that should give us a decent amount of protection.
What are they doing? Speaking of Davis Island, the Davis Island Yacht Club, what are they doing there to button things up?
Well, they're putting on the extra dock lines and extended dock lines so they can adjust as much as they can. If this storm comes up the bay, unlike most storms, they're going to have to bail out and leave the boats and the club to themselves. Most all of the trailer boats are been pulled out. Mine's one of the last ones to go, but I strapped her down last night. And so, yeah, everybody's basically pulling out that you can take anything away from the club, and then they'll, if it comes up the bay, then they'll just secure the club and hope for the best.
I hear on the TV reports this morning, I hear this is the first time since 1921 that Tampa Bay is taking a direct hit.
Correct. We've had a few near misses, and of course, a lot of them pass our way over the years, but nothing that's come right into Tampa Bay. It's we've been kind of in a lucky spot, but I guess eventually your number comes up.
And if it comes in at high tide, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, that could be as much as 15 feet storm surge?
Yeah, that's what they're calling for. During Helene, they called for 5 to 8 feet, and we got at least a solid 11 and a half where my location is. So I think some of that is generalized. In my specific spot, our building is 10 foot above mean water, and everybody had about 18 inches of water in their garages here.
And that was just a couple of weeks ago when Hurricane Helene came through.
Correct.
And well offshore, right? That wasn't a direct hit.
No, that was it was well offshore, but it was such a large storm, and the way it tracked right up the coast, it was just pushing water the whole way through, and then you throw the rain in with it too. So I think there's some areas that you get some localized surge that's maybe a little bit different than other places. We're at the very top of the bay, so we're at the end of the run, so to say.
Well, I better let you go. You've got a busy 24 or 36 hours ahead of you. Best wishes to everybody at Davis Island Yacht Club, St. Pete Yacht Club, the rest of the clubs in that fantastic sailing area. And stay safe, Bill Wingrove.
You got it. Appreciate it, Tom, and we'll see you on the other side of this thing.
Thank you, sir. Ciao for now.
You got it. Take care. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope he survives, and everybody else. A lot of FOSI in that area, and those great yacht clubs in the Tampa St. Pete area, St. Petersburg Yacht Club, Clearwater Yacht Club, and of course Davis Island Yacht Club, and many, many others. Now, I checked in with Mark Michelson again because this thing, according to NPR, this came up, and just on the news feed about, 45 minutes ago, and Hurricane Milton could double in size. Our NOAA, our National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, it could double in size as it surges over toward Florida's coast, over the Gulf of Mexico and towards Florida. So I checked back in with Mark just a few minutes ago, and Mark said this: all the models have shifted just south. There is way more east in the current track than what was forecast even this morning. If Milton really decides to be a crouton, he will make a sharp left turn and scrape from Fort Myers, which is well south of Tampa, to north of Tampa, just offshore. That would suck. So we're sincerely, obviously, hoping that does not happen, and we appreciate very much Bill Wingrove's report. We'll try to check in with him on Thursday or Friday and get a report for you when we do our regular Friday show at 1300 Pacific. And that latest news from our Sailing Illustrated weather guru, Mark Michelson, up in Idaho. Fog Machine, who's a bit of a weather expert himself, that's Lance Burke here in the Bay Area. The wind field grows through the eyewall replacement cycle process. Yes, indeed. Wouldn't it be ironic if it took out a couple of oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico? I don't think that's going to happen, Gordon. Those oil rigs are pretty well strengthened against hurricanes. The predicted wind strength numbers, Jeff Maxim up above, is saying, north of 100 miles per hour and in knots even. Just, it's going to be a big one. Rick Bannerow is reminding us that high tide in Tampa Bay is at 0300 Thursday, which is about the same time this storm is supposed to go ashore. Okay, so we'll watch that carefully. And again, our thoughts, our best wishes to everybody.
And a few prayers too, thank you.
And a few prayers, indeed, Julia. Julia, our schedule coming up here. Today's show is 766, our regular show. First time, we didn't do any regular shows last week due to all those working parties we were doing at 0500 in the morning. Friday, this coming Friday, the 11th, I'm not going to cover any more Women's America's Cup stuff till Friday. We will do a watch party at 0500 on Friday for the women's semifinals. That's the 3 teams coming out of Group A, 3 teams coming out of Group B. More on that in a minute here on the show. And we will cover the semis live at 0500. Hopefully that's all working out. The weather's bad. The venue is not a wonderful venue. You should see the madness they had this morning trying to get those races in. So let's go look at the rest of the schedule. Friday afternoon, we're going to do 2 shows Friday, the 0500 watch party, and then we'll do our regular show at 1300 Pacific Daylight Time, because we think there's going to be some news on Friday. So just a little bit of tip there, Julia. We think there's going to be some America's Cup related news for you Friday afternoon. Then we will do watch parties at 0500 Pacific both Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Yes.
Which will be, if the weather comes through, which will be races 1 and 2 and 3. Oops, that graphic's wrong. Races 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for AC 37 for the match. And they will probably, if they do the same thing they did for the Youth America's Cup, they will schedule an America's Cup race on match, presumably match number 3. Then they'll break and do the women's final between the 2 teams coming that are on the top of the leaderboard at the end of the semis on Friday. Then do another, presumably race 4 for the America's Cup match after that, all early Sunday, starting at 0500 Pacific, which is 0800 on the East Coast, which is 7 and 5 is 12 noon UTC this time of year. Julie, any questions? There'll be a test at the end of the show.
Yes, and there'll be a Medal of Honor for everybody who goes through that.
Well, including the Zoomers who've been coming on.
Yeah.
We really appreciate Graham Sweeney, of course, and Ed Worley down in SoCal, Gordon Smith, who's been on from Denmark, and we appreciate them coming on and helping to keep me company, and all the rest of you. As I said, I'd be sitting here in my bathrobe watching the racing anyway, so it's a lot more fun to do with all of you. John Emmett is in Villamora at the ILCA.
I'll go to Villamora.
You like Villamora, don't
Yeah,
you?
I do.
He's in Villamora at the ILCA European Masters. We'll talk some more about that in a moment. Clark Chapin back on the hurricane. Sadly, he predicts a serious loss of life for several reasons, including how long it's been since a direct hit. Yeah, 1921. It's been over 100 years. And a bunch of people who just won't do anything that the government tells them to do, like evacuate. Well, we'll see. There were long lines on the highways this morning as they were trying to get out of there. I think the other thing, Julia, that is makes this storm so dangerous, and you've seen it on the news reports, is all the debris, all the detritus from leftover from 2 weeks ago when Helene went up the coast, and there's all those things at 100+ miles an hour get swept up
and banged around,
and you know they become missiles in that breeze. So. International Maxi Association, that of course is the esteemed Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who has met at the Stag Cruise, the Commodore of the St. Pete Yacht Club. And we were all watching Helene then, and now another. So the Commodore of St. Pete Yacht Club, his name escapes me, but a great guy. And it was fun for all of us, Andrew, to get to meet and know. In fact, Andrew stayed on dark side on Pete. I'll think of the name in a sec here. Pete Noonan's yacht, Darkside. They were campmates in effect at Stag Cruise. Jeff Moxham, great to see you've got your Vegemite behind you, Tom. I just had a huge scrape of it on Toast for Brekkie there where he lives in Sydney. Yes, this was a gift from Peter Stevenson, aka Pedro Foiling Sailor. All of these, as I've said before, except the TV remote, these are all gifts from Fozy, including the crouton corner, this wooden board. And we got so much stuff now, it's starting to spread out behind us, on the table behind us. But we appreciate the Fozy very much indeed, and all the things you send us.
Yes, indeed.
And you see here, Clay Embley is saying, Julie, he's the bourbon boats. So he runs the ferries on the lakes in Kentucky, the ferry system for the state of Kentucky. But he also has this bourbon excursion boat, or several of them, hence the bourbon cream. And he's going to send us some more.
Oh, wow.
Graham Sweeney over in Scotland, our Zoomer and good friend, great Fozy. When Galveston was originally hit, the wreckage from the coast went inshore up to 12 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, I think all the stuff that's scattered about is going to make that a rough weekend for those of you on the west coast of Florida. Julia, let's move on to happier things. What are we celebrating today?
Oh my gosh.
And I teased it in the show notes at the top of the show. You could call this World Fozy Day because we're talking about a very smart animal with large arms. In fact, 8 of them.
Yes.
A huge brain.
Octopus.
That can solve puzzles, camouflage, and even open jars, perhaps of Vegemite. Today is World Octopus Day. When it comes to smart sea creatures with 8 arms and a big brain, they can solve puzzles, camouflage, and even open jars. John Emmett knew we were talking about octopi. Is that the plural, Julia?
Yes, it is.
I didn't go to Stanford, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
I'd call it octopuses or octopussy or something.
Octopussy's another character.
Was that in a James Bond?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Was there an octopussy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean Day, Alex Hayworth is saying, but it is World Octopus Day, which I said another word for Fozy. Octopuses are worthy of appreciation for a number of reasons. First of all, they are one of the Earth's great survivors. Indeed, despite their relatively short lifespan, octopus fossils date back more than 300 million years, meaning that they predate even dinosaurs.
I believe that.
Perhaps one of the reasons that these unique creatures have survived so long under the sea, is because they are also believed to be highly intelligent. with around 500 million neurons located in their brains. And I told you they're fuzzy, Julia.
Yes, well, all right.
They are able to bypass their instincts, learn lessons, and solve problems in a way that not very many other sea creatures are able to do. Some of them have even been seen to be created by using discarded coconut shells and making them into mobile homes. Ingenious. Gordon Smith says, if you had a huge brain, you would open Marmite instead of Vegemite. Yes, Alex Hayworth, a creature that even predates the America's Cup.
How can that be?
Indeed, the oldest trophy in international sports. Now, Julia, what else are we celebrating today? There's your clue.
Well, we have the Blue Angels with us.
We have the start of San Francisco Fleet Week, which goes back to the 80s when our late great mayor and then Senator Dianne Feinstein, who was a member, by the way, at St. Francis Yacht Club when she passed away. Not an honorary member, she was a regular member.
Yes.
She started this thing, and it's a strange thing happening here in San Francisco, which is otherwise kind of a liberal, leftist, hippie, hate Ashbury, the summer of love in 68, 69. But this is a big deal. It draws literally millions of people down to the foreshore of San Francisco Bay. It goes on starting really over this past weekend with minor things. Right. But we may even hear some of the jets, the Blue Angels, the Canadians send down. What are the name of the Canadians?
Snowbirds.
The Snowbirds. And we may hear them flying around. I have to change the microphones in the studio to dynamic mics for our Friday show because they're doing a show Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the afternoon. And depending upon the fog, the timing's nominally 3 o'clock, but sometimes it's earlier if it's going to be foggy. They get an earlier start. So that's Fleet Week here in San Francisco.
I've loved that. I've worked pretty closely with them here for maybe 5 or 6 years.
Doing what? Were you recruiting, headhunting for people?
No, hosting them.
Hosting them? Mm-hmm. Well, you're here. Your townhouse here in the marina is right under the action.
I know, but not.
You had some of those cute young airmen over here?
No, that was left to always the Commodore's
Why are you
wife.
Giving me a finger here?
The Commodore's wife usually did that and had a good time doing that at the yacht club.
What are you implying?
No, it was a privilege to meet all those nice young men.
Well, the VIPs are over at St. Francis Yacht Club on the race deck, I guess, on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Is the big VIP show. It's one of the great places to watch this thing.
Right.
And it is a madness. United Airlines is involved. Oracle Corp with their biplane, their stunt plane has been involved for years. There's the Blue Angels, and you can see right below where they are flying in this photo is the St. Francis Yacht Club, the Golden Gate Yacht Club, and a little bit inland is the Beach Street Yacht Club where we are hanging out.
Flag on it.
Alan Long says, open the windows. The Sailing Illustrated cephalopod.
Cephalopod.
Cephalopod, right?
Cephalopod.
Cephalopod is the accento on the first syllable. Yeah. Netflix octopus film documentary is entitled My Octopus Teacher, Gordon Smith is telling us.
Really?
And then Clark Chapin is giving us an update on this horrible hurricane. Well, we'll look into that some more. But that is what's going on here. We celebrate that Fleet Week. The air show is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's sort of like in Valencia, Spain. We all moved there. Hamish Ross is on the show, and his family, my family, we all moved there for the Cup leading up. I guess we moved there in about 2005, leading up to the Cup in 2007. And, of course, Valencia on March 19th has Las Fallas as the huge Rites of Spring fireworks show. Massive fireworks display. Midday downtown by the City Hall, they have La Mascleta, which is the loudest thing I have ever seen or heard in my life. And it's sustained noise. And if you're a guest of the mayor, you're on the Alcaldesa, you're up on her deck, or we were in those days, which looks right over the town square, and this thing's going on below you. And it is so loud that you have to put your fingers in your ears. But if you do, you lose face, because the mayor's sitting there, and of course half of Spain, it seems like, is sitting there.
And watching.
And never putting their fingers in their ears, because, that's not a manly thing to do, or a womanly thing to do.
Oh, yeah?
But after that, for Julia, for a year or two, a lot of people just said, leave, get out of Dodge, leave town March 19th rolls around, which is the same for Fleet Week here. Now there's some back and forth. Christopher Gillingham, who comes on the Zoom during our watch parties, looking like $1 million. It's in the afternoon, of course, in the UK when he's in Leamington, but he comes on dressed to the nines. Talk about a guy who looks like James Bond. And Christopher's saying, replying to John Emmett, Maud Adams in Octopussy, she also did Goldfinger. Okay, they're back on those movies.
Yep.
Did the camel and the moose. Okay, Stingray's back. Okay, I'm not going to read those jokes, Julie, because we'll probably get a finger wag from you. But Fleet Week's going on this week. We're celebrating that, celebrating Oracle Corp, United Airlines. We are also celebrating all of our FOSI. Thank you very much for your continuing support. Those of you who give us $1 or $2 a month via Patreon, becoming patrons, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And all the rest of you who contribute to and make possible this show, whether by appearing, by watching, or giving us a few bucks a month. Today we're celebrating, after 60 years, as I'm sure all of you know, the Brits are back in the America's Cup match. And the question is, we're going to ask all of you, because it's Tuesday, this starts on Saturday, the first couple of races of the 37th America's Cup match. Who's going to win and why? We've got some videos. We've got some lead up to that in a minute. But first, let's get to John Emmett's regular report. As we said, he's in Villamora, where he is racing. He had a second and a third today, won heres. Yeah, he had a good day. Racing in the ILCA, the European ILCA Masters Championships. They got 300-plus boats. And they are, in case you're wondering where Villamora is, it is on the Algarve, the south coast of Portugal, one of the most beautiful places, Julia,
Yes.
in the world. Do you agree?
Yes, I spent 2 summers there.
2 summers. Well, I've never spent a summer there. I've been there back and forth for regattas, judging, sailing, and one thing or another. And if I ever were to retire outside of the States, I think it would be on the Algarve, on the south coast of Portugal, if not up the coast of Brava. The Costa del Sol of Spain's pretty nice too. And even the west-facing coast of Portugal is pretty darn nice. But where they are racing in Villamora, not Villanova, that's around over by Barcelona. Where they're racing, where that red dot is a marvelous regatta center, and many, many classes, many events have been held there over the years. And today, this week, it's the ILCA 6 and 7 European Masters. That's what it looks like either side of the big harbor there, and there's another smaller harbor you can see up the shore. A coastal gem on the Algarve. This is pronounced by Angles, Algarve by the locals. And the regatta has attracted 300. I counted them up today. 330. I didn't count every one, but I looked at the gross numbers. 313 yachts are registered on the scoreboard, on the leaderboard. 169 in the ILCA 6, in which John Emmett is racing, and 144 in the ILCA 7. Again, this is Masters, so it's all older folks, but a magnificent turnout yet again in the ILCA Masters. Just the Europeans, not the world's. And here's John's report.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the FOSI. I know you like me to live dangerously, so I'm doing a walk and a talk through the ILCA Masters European Championships boat park. So there's a good chance somebody's going to drop a mast on my head, which will no doubt increase the views. Or you may see various sailors in a slightly undressed state, but hopefully I'm going to get through here okay. Probably the biggest danger to me and my equipment, and I'm not snow, but is if I get hosed, because electrical equipment doesn't like getting wet. But I wanted just to show you what a huge event this is. Now, I haven't done my homework, but I think there must be over 300 boats here, and that's split through all the different age groups and 2 different rigs, the 6 and the 7, and everybody's coming off the water after quite a long day. So today, for a lot of the fleets, we only managed to get a single race in, but what I would say, it's the same for everyone. In fact, there's a bit of nervous energy in the boat park because I suspect tomorrow we're going to have some big wind coming. But it's not only about the racing. It's about the social aspect, meeting up with old friends, and some of the people here are raced against each other at Olympic Games 10, 20, even 30 years ago. The biggest shout out for me has to be for the so-called legends. So we have guys here racing Iltagdis at over 75 years old. In fact, you won't see any of them in the background now. They had an early postponement, as they should, and were sent in first, so they could be the first ones up the slipway. Because you imagine if 300 boats arrived at the same time, and I'm trying very hard to keep out the way, it would be absolute chaos. Villamora Sailing have been absolutely amazing. You'll see in the background there's a lot of people wearing the red shirts, and they have helped with absolutely everything. So if I turn around, you can see in the background they're holding multiple boats, helping people get off the water. But the thing for today, John Emmett's Coaching Corner, is maybe we don't stop sailing because we get old. Maybe we get old if we stop sailing. And these events are just so important because sailing is a sport for life. Now I'm just going to go over the trolleys here, another little bit of excitement. But if you have a focus in your life, it's really good for your mental health, for your physical well-being. And the Masters racing, believe me, is incredibly tight and competitive. And one of the reasons I think that it works so well is because you're racing in the most case somebody who's within your 10-year age bracket. And it's not only the Ilkas who have Masters racing, but I think they do it especially well. I know the Finn class have an absolutely amazing Master circuit as well, and it's really nice that when people finish full-time sailing or their Olympic campaigns, they can still sail the boats we love. Now, for the next show, I'm going to talk a little bit about the America's Cup. I have a lot of thoughts about the development of the sport, possibly some popular, some not so popular, but I'll leave that to the next show because today I think this is all about your, if you like, traditional classes, your water pushers, your really slow, close, tactical racing at 5 knots, which I think will always be a part of our beloved sport. So with that in mind, I think before the sun sets, I'm going to go and pack my boat up and see if I can find my hiking legs ready for tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, please remember to like, share, follow, subscribe, and just pop your comments in. They're always welcome. See you on the show.
Is it just me, or does John always look happier at a regatta? He's beaming. Look at the smile on his face. He just looks like he's having a ball. And of course, he's sailing. He is meeting up with old friends. You and I were talking about that before the show.
Yes.
That this show is keeping us young.
Yes.
Knock on wood. That we, what would we be doing if we weren't doing this show? We'd be casting about. I'd be getting in trouble. I'm sure you'd be. You'd be, playing the stock market, making even more money than me. Yes, you would. Subscribing to conservative political publications.
Yes.
You should. I often get Julia's mail and bring it up to her, and you should see every day the number of people that are trying to get money from her leading up to this election. I'll bet you're happy when this election's over, aren't you?
I sure am.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop looking at my emails too.
Your emails and texts, not to mention your emails and texts. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he also just had a haircut. He looks good. Look at that.
He does. No, he looks really good.
And he's sailing well.
And he expresses that joy to us.
Yeah, he does. And several of you have shared those comments. You go there and you meet your friends. It's Christopher Gillingham. I couldn't agree more. John Emmett always has we always enjoy his videos. It's a very positive tonic, like a gin and tonic, I guess. Tom Ogletree, speaking of nice places and places that put a smile on my face, in Savannah, Georgia. I don't know about these country codes, LO or PO. I think it was a POR, not a PDR. I don't know a country that has a PDR Olympic code, but maybe it does. Okay, that was John Emmett and his regular report from the Coach's Corner. John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. If you need a good coach, you need a good commentator or more, author even, check in with John Emmett. You can find him on Facebook. I'm sure you can send us a note. We'll forward it to him if you don't otherwise know his email. And Julia, the International Maxi Association, a.k.a. Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, is saying, great scarf tonight, Julia.
Thank you. That's a St. Francis Yacht Club scarf.
Well, John Emmett, yes, 50% of the country will be unhappy after the U.S. election is over. Don't worry, Pooh Sticks is in the Okay, Pooh Sticks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there is not an IOC code PDR. The PDR, not PDQ, pretty damn quick, but PDR, no. Okay, thanks for that, Clark Chabon. And I see, too, that the forecast, I saw a note here from Lance Burke that's going to be PDL.
Flat.
PDL, Julia, pretty damn light.
Yeah.
In Barcelona this weekend. Although you never know. Today the forecast was for 10 to 16. And overnight, that all changed, and the wind whips around. They've got those two big hills, a bit like the LA Basin without the big. Remember, they're east-facing. So Barcelona is, and it's like Valencia, southeast-facing, and that's why you don't have a reliable sea breeze there. And if there is one, it's PDL, pretty damn light.
Yeah.
What a venue. What a great venue Barcelona is for the America's Cup and for these preliminary races. Clay Embley, Tom Ogletree's mother, was the lady that let a delinquent like me into St. Paul's School. She was a saint among us. Well, listening from Adelaide. Hello, here's PFS, Pedro Foiling Sailor, who's in Adelaide today, not in Sydney.
Oh, nice. Say hello to Adelaide.
You know her personally, Julia?
You bet.
I couldn't. I like Adelaide, too.
I do, too.
I like all of Australia. You're the big fan of Australia.
Yeah.
You have a fond place in your heart.
I do.
For Aussies, Aussie boys.
Well, and it's because I spent so much time there.
You did. With your late great husband, I should quickly add.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to do a Bravo Zulu. I realized that we did not do much about, looking back on our shows, we didn't do much on the regular Tuesday, Friday show about the Youth America's Cup, so I thought we should extend a Bravo Zulu to the New York Yacht Club's American Magic team, who were the runner-up, but especially to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli's team and Marco Gradoni, who won this thing. Just to recap, because it kind of got lost in between the Louis Vuitton Cup stuff, and it was being run, and it was helter-skelter. The weather was good, or the weather wasn't good, and then you ran that final race, and it got lost in the TV and so on. But let's just recap what happened, because we haven't really covered it on this show. The fleet races, there were supposed to be 8 fleet races for each group, and then the groups A and B then matriculated the top 3 teams in their standings to the semifinals, and then they had another 4 fleet races among those 6 teams, and the top 2 of those teams then went forward to a winner-take-all single match race, which was the aforementioned LRPP and New York Yacht Club's American Magic, NYAM, N-Y-A-M. And that was the format. It's also the format for the women's, which is going on now. Same format, Group A and Group B. Group A is the America's Cup teams, 1 team representing each of the 6 America's Cup teams, and then 6 so-called invited teams. And they race off in their own little group, and then the top 3 from each go through to a semifinal, and then the semifinal top 2 teams in more fleet racing go through to a winner-take-all single race match race. And that's what happened in the youth. And, of course, it was won by Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, Marco Gradoni's team, after there was a lot of buildup and then not much follow-up, I guess, because the other stuff that was going on. And LRPP topped the overall standings. We all said they're going to win this thing, and they did, because of the experience Marco Gradoni had sailing with LRPP's main team, their America's Cup team. Remember, he helmed the AC-40 at the regatta in Jeddah.
That's right.
And he got a lot of experience in the AC-40s real time that other teams did not get. So Gradoni and Gianluigi Ugolini have serious talent behind them in terms of Rocco Falcone, who we decided was the nephew, didn't we, of Shannon Falcone? Did we decide that in an earlier show?
I don't remember.
And Federico, I don't know, Colonino, and are eyeing the match race format keenly. New York Yacht Club had a great team as well, and they got to second place, got to the finals, and of course led by H4, as he's known, Harry Malgus and Kyle Navin on the steering wheels, backed up by the supreme trim talents of Severin, Graham, and Finn Rowe. This is a youth team just like the Italians, who have been fully integrated with their senior AC team, who have nurtured their talent brilliantly. That's the writing, of course, Julie, of your favorite writer, Magnus the Magnificent.
Yes.
And as Rob Fry is saying, you can't beat time in the boat. Rob's son, of course, Leo Takahashi, was the A-helm on the Kiwi boat, who did not, strangely enough, get as much time in the boat. Racing in anger is much more useful than watching. John Emmett is agreeing. And I like the WMRT circuit. I know there's some back and forth in the comments, but it did pit these two. I think you're going to hear a lot more from these two kids. They're hardly kids, but they're in their mid-20s now, or early 20s. But Harry and Marco, I think we're going to hear a lot more of them. This was the pre-match ink, again, from Magnus Wheatley. It could well be billed as the battle of the new age, as two of the world's finest young sailing talents go head-to-head for the Unicredit Youth America's Cup title. Marco, the mercurial and fast, I didn't know he was mercurial, and fast-coming Italian talent from LRPP, and Harry Malgus, the latest generation of an exceptional U.S. racing dynasty representing NIAM. Both sealed their places in the event's upcoming match race final, this is a couple weeks ago, after 4 outstanding fleet races in today's semifinal, and will now go head-to-head in a one-shot winner-take-all, which took place on Thursday, the 26th of September. So you know how that turned out, but here's a recap.
This young American Magic team have impressed, armed with both a rock-solid preparation and a burning desire to bring this trophy to 44th Street. We can expect them to come out firing. On the wheels, it's skipper Harry Melges and Kyle Navin, and with undoubtedly the hardest job today, keeping the wheels on, doing all those tricky maneuvers, it's Severin Graham and Finn Rowe.
The youth team of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli have kept to their script and have made it convincingly through to the Unicredit match race final. Steering the team's dreams on the AC40 is Ugolini and Gradoni. Making them look good on the wheels is the trimmers of Colonino and Falcone. American Magic having to come in and enter no earlier than 2:10. They possibly could be early.
Oh, I think they know. I think they know.
They're all good. They're rolling away. If you want it.
Luna Rossa Prada
This is
Pirelli
the
will come in.
umpires. Early entry penalty USA. Early entry penalty USA.
Oh, careless mistake by American Magic.
So basically from here, the Italians just need to get a clean start, and the American team will have to take a get-behind penalty unless they can put another penalty back on.
Well, that was pretty brutal to take that penalty, and I still don't know what happened. I've been asking around and whether they think it was software or they just got ahead of themselves. But now they've got to go through the starting line, and they've got to then slow down to be 75 meters behind the Italians.
Why does that count before the
Because you
begins?
can't, it technically, tactically, it could be an advantage if you go in early. So you can't go in before you're assigned, at your assigned end, before your assigned time, which is 2 minutes, 10 seconds on the port end and 2 minutes on the starboard end.
I know, but
And that's for the port tacker to get across without there being a port starboard dial up in the middle of the starting line. But here you can see this is the start now. And it's just a rule. Whether it's a good rule or not, it's another issue.
doesn't
But
make any sense.
once again, a penalty being worn, as the umpires would say, by the U.S. team. They actually arguably have the start that John Emmett likes at the pin end, at the upwind port end of the line. But now watch as they have to fall back to put themselves 75 meters behind the Italians. And at that point, it's basically raised there. You can see them bearing away, slowing down, gauging off to leeward to take the penalty. And that was the ball game, as we would say in American baseball, or even American football. Why are we watching this again? I find it painful. Well, because we really didn't give it much attention. And this kid, Marco Gordoni, I think is the future. Probably H4 is too, Harry Malgus. So that was the part one of that. I want to show then the end of that race because, again, we haven't given these kids any love, and I just think it's worthwhile to do so.
One more maneuver needed for the Italians, so they're heading down on the final leg. Absolutely ripping there. You see that leeward foil just blowing the water surface apart there. 44 knots of boat speed on a 40-footer, like a rally car.
The harder it's gone, the better they have performed.
Final maneuver for the Italians.
2, 1, board up. Okay, boys, full speed to the end. Bow up. Guardate le onde, guardate le onde. Bow up.
On a day when it mattered.
Oh, they went touchdown.
Oh, my goodness.
Board up.
They need to rebuild the speed here. Big rebuild here. Should be okay. Should be okay.
Okay, VNG boys. Got the sail. Get the sail.
Got to keep it together here for this last little bit.
Coming. My dream, GG, don't worry.
For this whole regatta, they have been the team to beat, the form team representing Secondo Vella Sicilia. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli win the Unicredit Youth America's confirmation. We have new champions in the Unicredit Youth America's Cup. Those champions are Luna Rossa.
Okay, well, you could hear the shouting coming off the boat. Well deserved. Exaltation, is that the right word, Julia? Coming off that boat.
Yeah.
Ahead in the leeward is always favorable. You can put the nose down when needed. There's a back and forth between Commodore Adkins and others about which end of the line to start at. You heard John Emmett myself discussing that on the live the other day.
Yeah.
When we say committee boat end, normally the committee boat is at the upwind starboard end of the line, and the pin end is a pin marker, a pin buoy, at the upwind left end of the starting line. So you hear all of us still referring to it, even though, as you see in this picture, that's the finish line. But the starting line it's the obverse of that. It's the same two kinds of marks, and they're both pins in effect. They're both marker buoys. Mm-hmm. So not to get ourselves wrapped up in that too much. So Bravo Zulu. Again, I just wanted to recap this because we haven't covered it on the regular 1300 show. We previewed it, but we never really talked about the results, which I think we should do because these kids are both crews.
Yes.
And to say nothing of the other crews, we had several other Fosi in this event, including Leo Takahashi.
Right.
And including Cole Tapper, who was sailing for Australia, Leo sailing for New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear a lot from these kids. We already got to know Cole and Leo because of the Gov Cup. We know H4 from sailing here in the States and, of course, his fabulous family. And Gridoni, he won. Well, we'll tell you some more about Gridoni here in a second, but this kid is astonishingly good, and he led this team to victory. Yes, he had way more time in the boat, and he's been named, Kim Pinnell is telling us, who's in Barcelona. Kim is saying Gridoni has been named as next up for LRPP with Bruni and Spithill both retiring. I hadn't heard for sure that Bruni was retiring, but of course we saw on live TV Spithill say that he was retiring. There's a handing over of the baton out in the AC-75 from the current AC-75 crew to new incoming team tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so that's some good news from one of our Fosi, from Kim Pinnell. Thank you for that. Stingray, I agree. You absolutely love Glenn's commentary. Yeah, Glenn Ashby is by far the best of those three commentators, full stop. Now let me back up. I wanted to set this up. This is a video in Italian, so if you've got if you're on Facebook or YouTube, I think you will get, if you click on it and have it set up, to have the closed captions going on at the bottom. You can do it now, set it to come in English, to do auto translation from the Italian. Those of you who are Italian speakers will understand what Marco Gridoni says in this very brief video, but bravo Zulu again to him.
Oggi abbiamo vinto la Youth America's Cup e sono felicissimo per tutti quanti, la squadra, e in primis anche per me perché è stato un obiettivo raggiunto in cui abbiamo lavorato tantissimo e è veramente una sensazione bellissima. Una finale match race botta secca, quindi mentalmente poteva essere difficile affrontarla perché poteva vanificare tutto il bene che avevamo fatto durante la settimana, però credo che siamo usciti in acqua molto tranquilli e alla fine siamo riusciti un po', credo che gli americani fossero un po' più sotto pressione rispetto a noi e poi abbiamo gestito benissimo la partenza e poi in generale tutta la regata c'era vento forte e onda, quindi non era per niente semplice, però sono contento per come l'abbiamo gestita.
But very gracious.
Yes.
I saw it earlier and read the lower thirds, and just from memory, he said congratulations to the other team, congratulations to the rest of his team, and how exciting this was, and he'd been looking forward to this. But you know, he's obviously
Star quality.
Is he going to win the cup? Could he be the guy that wins the cup for the Italians now that we know Patrizio says, we've got a report in a moment, Patrizio says he's going to do it again. Your favorite challenger.
I know.
He's going to do it again. So bravo Zulu to Marco. Now here's his pedigree. Here's from Wikipedia what he has done. He's an Italian sailor, obviously. He became the first Optimus sailor in history to win 3 successive World Championship titles. 17, 18, and 19. In doing so, Gridoni was awarded the Rolex World Sailor of the Year by World Sailing in 2019, being the youngest ever recipient.
Terrific.
And I'm going to skip ahead one paragraph to keep this in chronological order.
Yeah.
He won the 470 Mixed World Junior Championship 2021 in San Remo. He may have gone on and medaled in the 470 class had he not decided to focus on the America's Cup, where he was getting paid, no doubt, by Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli. And as of June 2024, earlier this year, Gridoni is a helmsman for LRPP, as you all know. And he announced a year before that he would pause his Olympic 470 campaign whilst he focused on the upcoming America's Cup, which he has done and now won, at least the youth version of it. And apparently, according to Kim Pennell, he is going to be announced tomorrow as the new helm in this turnover from Jimmy and Francesco over to the new younger generation of Italian foiling sailors. So bravo Zulu to him. I'm glad we covered it. And that's there is just very little, Julia, in after the fact. And the same thing, I looked around for information coming out about the women's, and okay, it's real-time stuff, and Magnus is getting his daily reports, and Richard Gladwell, thank God for Richard Gladwell, is doing regular reports on sail-world.com. But here it is, Tuesday of the week of the start of the match, and any of you who were in Newport, Rhode Island back in the day, or any of the other more recent America's Cup matches, the few days before is filled with tension, filled with news reports. It's like Super Bowl week in our sport. Super Bowl, the big football game here, where there's just sorry to use it again, the fire hose of media.
Yep.
But not so much this year. I couldn't find but 1 or 2 things from the Brits about the upcoming match. Stuff.co in New Zealand is talking about fluffy stuff, about, what are people eating for lunch and what are, it's maybe the teams are all, bound up and not letting their people get out and give reports. But we've got something from Matthew Sheehan in a moment about all that. So again, bravo Zulu to Marco and to the Italians.
I love the way that they, in a very systematic way, have the juniors earned their way up and just been
seems like it
graduated up.
Seems like it. Yeah, bravo Zulu. Okay, now, apropos what's happening on Saturday, I thought this was a particularly good and appropriate this day in history, Julia. Do you know what happened on this day in history, the 8th of October?
What year?
1769. Now, there's if the Kiwis on here don't know, you can give them shameful wave of the finger, because this was a big day in New Zealand history. The 8th of October, 1769. Rob Fry's on here. Hamish Ross is on here. What happened in 1769?
Somebody discovered
Yeah, go ahead. Here's your next clue. I'll give you another clue.
New Zealand.
Well, exactly. Well done, Julia. And who discovered it? Captain.
Tasman?
No.
Oh, no.
Cook. Captain James Cook. Cook discovered New Zealand, Chris Fury is saying. Indeed. Yeah, there's several reports here that the interest in the Cup just isn't there even among sailors. Cook found New Zealand. Bannerow is saying, Ed Worley's Cook. Here comes the Cook, the bloody Cook. You know what movie that line is from? Hunt for Red October. It's the bloody Cook. Who was the guy that had the gun that was shooting everybody, who was the plant. Inside Tack by Ineos has been really informative too. Absolutely, Martin Latimer, good point. Before or after Cook died? This is before Cook died. He died, of course, at the hands of the Hawaiians later on. So that's what happened. He lived from 1728 to 1779. And long story short, Captain James Cook lands in New Zealand for the first time near present-day Gisborne at Poverty Bay on the east coast of the North Island. A misunderstanding, possibly over a ceremonial challenge, maybe they did the haka and he didn't like it, causes the English to shoot and kill the leader, Te Maro.
Oh, that probably did do the haka.
Yeah. Is NZ where Cook discovered Hannibal Lecter? So I just thought this was interesting, Julia, because are the Brits going to conquer New Zealand again? This coming week?
Yes, maybe so.
Maybe so. So that's why I went with this instead of one of the other many other things that significance that happened on this day in history. And of course, the Brits conquered New Zealand for the first time. That's going to piss them off. That's what Clayton Embley is saying. Yeah, maybe. But that's why we chose that one. And that's why we're now going to move into and brought the first goat. Is that true, Alan Long? They brought the first goat? The America's Cup left the RNZ yesterday, Alex Hayworth is saying. Mark Holland says, no, it won't happen. Okay, enough of all that. Let's do an America's Cup update, a Cup day for AC37, soon to be AC38. There's already things happening. One is hearing all sorts of things about AC38 now that we know who the two finalists are going to be, meaning one or the other is going to be the defender next time around. You want to make your prediction now or when we get to that section?
There's two different predictions. One that I wish would happen.
Oh, you would. Come on. You're doing the bloody Graham Sweeney on us. Not what do you think in your heart. I want to know what do you think in your brain. We'll come to that in a minute.
It's two different answers.
It's not who we want to know what's in your brain. We all know what's in your heart. All of us want to see the challengers win, except for a few Kiwis on here. So what's going on in the women's? Let's get to the women's first, because today was a weird day of weather. We thought there was going to be breeze and full-on racing for both the Alpha and Bravo groups. It didn't happen. The Alpha group did get their racing completed. The Swedes have won at the top, and two other teams, the Dutch and the Spanish, have qualified to go forward to the semifinals on Friday. Sky High Swedes, top invited teams group, that is Group A, has sail team BCN, meaning the Spanish qualified for the Pooch Women's America's Cup semifinal, along with the Dutch. And we keep saying on this show, you don't think the Netherlands, that the Dutch are at the top of the heap of sailing countries. They're certainly among the top teams in the sailing world, Olympic and otherwise.
Yes.
So here's Magnus the Magnificent off their website just before we went to air. Swedish Challenge powered by Artemis Technology. Now that's interesting because Artemis has put the Swedish team in there. They have a bespoke, they have their private, what's the word I want? They have their private simulator. So this Swedish team's had a lot of time in the Artemis simulator, and of course Artemis Racing, which was here in 2017, And then they call 2017, 2013, and then after the tragedy to Bart Simpson, they called off America's Cup participation. But will they be back next time, the Swedes, in the senior America's Cup? Remains to be seen. But the Swedes look very capable indeed. And they started the day today in fourth place after an out-of-sorts opening 4 races on Sunday, despite having been tipped for success before the tournament. The regatta, please, Magnus. Today they proved that pre-regatta time in the boat matters, scoring 4 race wins from 4 races. They won all 4 races today, showing consistency, excellent racecraft. What's racecraft?
Knowing what you're doing.
Say that again, knowing
what you're doing.
What you're doing. And near perfect maneuvers across the range of conditions, that's putting it mildly. Sweden moved from 4th to 1st in the standings after a dominant second race win and simply extended away to win. Talking about mixing metaphors. Now we got win at a canter.
Yeah.
We got horse racing in here, Julia.
Yeah.
We got tournaments, which sounds like jousting tournaments. We've got cantors. We got horse racing, and then some. Their skipper, their A-helm, is a terrific sailor. I've met her. Vilma Bobeck from Sweden, the A-helm on the what's called the Swedish Challenge, Artemis Technologies, powered thereby. And speaking afterwards, Vilma, starboard helm on the Swedish Challenge, came ashore with a sense of relief. And after a stunning performance, saying, quote, "I think we just put everything together out there today and finally got to show what we've been training for all summer and what we're actually capable of doing this week. We still have a few things to go over that we can improve on further, but we're just looking forward to the semifinals now."
She looks really happy and beautiful on that.
She is a very bright and terrific sailor, and to say nothing of very attractive as well. Sadly, our foesy, Olivia Price, did not get through. She finished 4th.
Oh.
And for the Australians, though, it was the toughest of days. From the outset, they appeared out of sorts with the boat and struggled to shift gears. I don't know if there was something wrong with the boat or if they just struggled with it. I haven't talked to Olivia or her parents, all Fosies, or her coach, Harry Price, her brother. One moment outstanding, the next off the pace. Sail Team BCN, that's the Spanish team, were also struggling for consistency, but the local team kept cool under pressure and scored the results when it mattered. Going into the final race, a 3-point buffer for the Spanish meant nothing was certain, although they were fairly comfortably ahead of the Aussies, especially given the proven talent on board the Australian boat. But a match race to the finish on the final leg ensued, and Sail Team BCN sailed brilliantly to prevail and secure themselves the final podium place. That behind, of course, those other 2 teams, which we just mentioned, were the Dutch in second place and the Swedes in first place. So here's what Olivia had to say. I haven't found a video, but again, precious little video ink coming out of the youths after it was over, or out of the women so far. Maybe there'll be more in the next couple of days. I certainly hope so. Olivia Price, our Fosie, who was the A-helm on Andu, Australia. And she said she was understandably gutted to have dropped out of the top 3 where she was the whole time until today, but remained grateful for the opportunity that the inaugural Pooch Women's America's Cup has afforded, saying, quote, "Obviously it's not the result we came here for, but it is a moment to still celebrate as much as it does hurt. It has something pretty cool. It was something pretty cool to be a part of, and hopefully we can continue with as both women and as Australians. And we hope that the winning family, as I posted on Facebook yesterday, last evening, or this morning, I guess early this morning, I hope the winning family who are that's Andu, and have been sponsoring both the women's and the youth teams, will continue and maybe mount, for the first time in quite a while, an Australian America's Cup Challenge for AC38. That's the talk.
Yep. Oh, that'd be good.
That's the, that's the whispering here and there. So we shall see if that happens. Mm-hmm. Olivia was really struggling to handle the helming and the stronger puffs. Mr. President Alistair Murray, president of Australian Sailing, is saying, yeah. replying to Ed Worley, Alex, hey, are you in a protective? Okay. Group B teams ought to have more or less equal time on the water prior to the event. With Ineos, the challenger, meaning the Brits, I have lost my license to make any cup prediction. Pooch, is that the American Humane Society? No, I don't think so, Alan Long. Replying to John Lamberts Van Buren, need your own boat like the Swedes. John LVB is there. By the way, I didn't put anything in the show about it, but the J-boats are there racing. And they did some racing, I think, today. It was really light, and I don't think yesterday they raced. But I do think, tell me in the comments, somebody, if they did actually.
I saw some reference to it, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's looking light the rest of the week, at least this coming weekend. It's looking pathetically light at this wonderful America's Cup venue. But sorry to Olivia, whom we adore, the silver medalist 2012 in the women's match racing for Australia. Her Fosey family, including her mom and dad, Davey and Christian Price, her brother Harry, who've been on this show any number of times. And we salute all of them. So that's how it worked out. That Group B is done. The Swedes, the Dutch, and the Spanish now on top, and they will go forward to the semis, which are this Friday morning, at least scheduled for this Friday morning. And the other three teams, we don't know who they will be yet. This is Group B, the so-called invited team, the top three moving forward now to Friday's semis. Here's the A group in the current standings. It's looking like it'll be LRPP again, and they may actually win both the women's and the youth and the women's. We shall see. The Brits looking good. The Athena Pathway group with Hannah Mills and co. are looking strong, and ETNZ's team in third place are also looking good, but closely chased by Alinghi Red Bull Racing, only 3 points behind, with fully 4 races to go. They've only completed 4 of their 8 races in their Group B, whatever they call this stage. 4 of 8 races completed. So they've got some racing to do tomorrow and Thursday, and the top 4 teams will also go, top 3 teams rather, will go forward to the semis on Friday morning.
Worth getting up for.
Worth getting up for, and that's why, Julie, we're going to cover that.
Yep.
We're going to do an 0500 watch party Friday morning. And our regular show Friday afternoon.
Yes, and we're going to be awake for both of them.
Well, you will be. I probably won't be, but I'll do my best to put the Friday afternoon show together on Thursday, and then do the watch party from 0500 to tell me what, 0800.
And then have a nap.
Well, I won't have time for that because you got to work to put the rest of the Friday afternoon show together. It's full out. When we do these shows, I'm not complaining, but as Julia knows, we go at it from basically 7 until we go on there. I mean, today we were still working on the show literally 4 minutes before we went live.
Yeah.
And we love it. And we love all of you and the Fosey coming on and helping out. Mark Holland, let me know any particular interviews you need. He is there, and I will see what I can do.
Oh, that's good.
Mark, if you can get an interview with the top, the 2 ladies who are going forward at the top of their teams, the top of their leaders of their teams going forward from groups A and B going into Friday morning, that would be great and much appreciated. If you can get Olivia at Price as well, our Fosey, and get a word from her, that would be great. And I'm getting great data, by the way, out of Mark Holland, who, again, Mark has become our strategist, our statistician, I should say, on the watch parties. He's got all the scoop. And again, he gave us, during one of those shows, he gave us quite an insight into his, what's it called, Mark? The America's Cup, not compendium, but he's got a website full of facts and figures. And we appreciate Mark Holland's work.
He was very interesting.
He was indeed. And give us, Mark, if you would please, give us another link to that website where you're putting all that America's Cup data. How can you have a world championship with only 5 boats? Yeah, okay, John Emmett is saying. Now, so there are the results, but I've also got a video that Matthew Sheehan, the terrific YouTuber from Great Britain, he's in Barcelona doing great work. And this is his wrap-up video today. I got it just before we went to air. And he's also, it's a nice segue into what's going to happen starting this Saturday, if there's wind, in the 37th match of the oldest trophy in sports. So have a look at this nice video from Matt Sheehan.
Press. Press forward, press. Slow it down a little bit. Slow here before the drop. And
A windless and overcast day yesterday meant that there was no racing in the Pooch Women's America's Cup for Group B. This meant that today, Tuesday, was now a double bill, as both A and B groups fought it out to see who would be in the top 3 in each group to make it through to the semi-finals. An offshore westerly breeze forecast to be in the teens meant that today was going to be a tricky one. And when racing got underway, that's exactly how it panned out. Group B were the first to race, and here was the Swedish challenge powered by Artemis Technologies that showed the best form in the first race, with Andu Team Australia taking second and Yayo Team Dutch Sail in third. Keeping the boats under control in the lively conditions was clearly the biggest challenge, and in this respect the second race of the day showed little change. Coping with the gusts, shifts and lulls was hard. What did change in this race was a more confident performance by Sail Team Barcelona, who secured a second to the Swedes, while in third it was the Dutch. In fact, it was this second race that started to show how teams were getting to grips with the AC40s in difficult conditions. Plus, the overall leaderboard was taking shape. The Swedes were leading, with the Dutch just behind. The tightest battle was between Team Barcelona and Team Australia, who were a point apart as they fought for the third spot. The third race of the day took a while to get going, as the breeze shut down temporarily. But after the race committee abandoned this one and restarted it, there was a familiar pattern at the front of the fleet, with the Dutch and the Swedes leading the charge. Interestingly, the Dutch were also showing how fast they'd learned and were ahead of the Swedes. But the more settled but error-free boat handling aboard the Swedish boat saw them take the lead and their third win of the day. Another team to be settling into their stride were the Spanish, who took third place and in doing so added another point to their overall lead on the Australians.
We're just so happy to be sailing today. I think everyone out here is having a great time. It doesn't get better than this. It is hectic at times, but whoa, cool racing.
The fourth and final race of the day delivered the same result among the top 4 teams and secured the Swedes, the Dutch and the Spanish with places in the semi-final on Thursday. And sadly, that was the end of racing for today. Damage to the Canadian boat earlier in the day had resulted in the AC40 needing an overnight repair. Tomorrow's forecast looks pretty lively at 20 to 30 knots and a big sea state to go with it. So, to ensure that the British Athena Pathway team who share this boat with the Canadians were able to race, Group A has been postponed until Thursday. In the meantime, the Kiwis and the Brits were both out today in their AC75s as they worked themselves up for the start of the big show at the weekend. Yesterday's weather was rubbish, flat calm, misty, murky, humid and provided little opportunity to achieve much at all. But it was an important day nonetheless, as this was the deadline for both teams to declare what kit they're going to be using. I've yet to see Ineos Britannia, but I did take a look at the Kiwi boats, where there are 2 obvious changes. The first is that they're using symmetrical foils. That's not exactly a surprise, but they were sailing with different foil on each side during the round-robin phase as they made their comparisons. The tricky thing is that even though they were different, it's very hard, if not impossible, to identify the key aspects of each foil, let alone interpret what these differences might mean. Far more obvious is the change to a more radical rudder, with a long cord at the top that changes abruptly to a very skinny blade lower down. This is the most extreme rudder I've seen across the fleet. Given the pressure in the pre-start and the number of times that teams have lost a rudder here or through a manoeuvre, this is going to be very interesting to watch when the pair line up. The other slight change has been a return to towing the boat in and out by having the support boat in reverse. This may just be to avoid conflicting with the LiDAR posts that sprout from the side decks whilst they've been testing. So, given the fruity forecast, I'd be surprised if we see either team head out tomorrow, although there might be a possibility in the morning. Either way, we'll keep you posted. See you then.
The fruity forecast. Well, it's going to be frothy tomorrow, and you heard what he said about yesterday. I think I enjoy these 40s more than the 75s, Alan Long says. Yeah, Stingray had seen that video before. He said, check out the new rudder. That is pretty amazing. I agree. That is a pretty amazing rudder. And is that going to cause them problems in light air or in heavy air or both? Or they must know, they must have an idea about how good that is. I also agree with John Emmett. ITA, GBR, and NZL will most likely go through in the women's A group. I think that's probably true. Yeah, that was a bit of a weird noise in the transition between those segments, wasn't it? But nice work by, and there's his YouTube channel, by Matt Sheehan. And thanks again, Matt, for letting us use your videos. I mean, that was the most interesting video out of Barcelona I've seen in weeks.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Julia?
I agree.
Do you agree?
Yep.
Go follow Matt. I think, too, the Brits with their dockside, what is it called? The... whatever their live video podcast is also very good. Help me out with the name of that, but that's also been very informative. But this, from a neutral, okay, he's a Brit, but is still a neutral journalist there. I wish Gladwell were there in Barcelona. Inside TAC, thank you, Yarbahe. And Fritz Mueller agreeing that Matt's report is quite good, and reports have been. He does nice video updates, Ed Worley agreeing. Indeed. So thanks again to Matt. When they go into displacement mode, they recover faster. Alan Long thinks that rudder. Well, you know, look at these foils. These foils are flatter and much smaller than what we saw last time around. And we shall see what happens going forward starting this weekend, if there's any racing at all this weekend.
I think everybody's been quicker up on the foils
than last time.
Yeah.
Well, did anybody even get back on the foils last time?
Maybe not.
That's a good question. Smaller foils make it harder to take off. Yeah, but the boats are lighter and there's more power, so we'll see. John Emmett, we shall see. Okay, now let's get to the big deal. As you all know, the Italians got eliminated, and again, precious little ink about their elimination, but here is one video that came out. Sorry, the Italians got eliminated, but also this courtesy also of the Brits. Have a look at this.
The race to face the defender in the match on October 12 begins right now. Are on their way to the first win. One race still to come today. Cannot wait for it. Let's go. This is racing like we haven't seen before.
They have some broken battens in their port.
Italy has been disqualified. The race is stopped.
They are closing fast, but will it be enough? And they will defeat Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli in race 5, and they will go ahead 3-2. Guess what? We're all locked up again. It's 3-all.
Oh, massive splashdown by the Italian team. Massive structural failure on board. Oh, that's a big speed loss for the Italian team. We saw that big wave.
They are 6-4 in the lead and 1 win away from the Louis Vuitton Cup final. rules the waves of the Mediterranean. With a 7-4 victory, they win the Louis Vuitton Cup and will meet Emirates Team New Zealand. Britannia, winners of the Louis Vuitton Cup.
Okay, well, there's a recap.
That was good.
And that was okay, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You like that. So we all know what's happening coming up here this, ostensibly on Saturday. The Ineos LR series and the LRAM series before were just amazing, in how tight the deltas were, Stingray is saying. Freddie, meaning Freddie Carr, looks the happiest person on the boat, on the British boat, John Emmett is saying. Okay, so much for that video and recap of what you all know has just happened with the Brits beating the Italians. Now, 2 days after that, to the surprise of a few of us, Patrizio already has announced he's going again. Now, as I once said to Bill Koch, and he's never let me forget it, because I'm poor and he's enormously wealthy. I said, well, Bill, you can say that, but talk is cheap. He said, yeah, look who's talking. And he was right. Yeah. But this is the headline this is a release from LRPP. Luna Rossa continues the journey. Patrizio Bertelli's reassurance on the future of the team.
Absolutely amazing.
Say again?
Absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of him.
The day, and he's 80 what? Somebody look it up for us and tell us in the comments. He's 80 what? 1 or 2? Something like that. The day after Luna Rossa's elimination from the Challenger Selection Finals, Patrizio Bertelli, chairman of the Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, met with some media reps to discuss the current situation and the future of the team. Together with Bertelli were Marco Tronchetti Provera, who's there on the left, executive vice president of Pirelli and the co-title sponsor of the team, and Max Serena, skipper and team director. Bertelli assured that Luna Rossa will continue its America's Cup campaign guided by Max. So Max still got a job. Max himself was speculating, wondering whether or not he had a job again. Confirming his trust in the team he founded back in 1997, he highlighted Luna Rossa's significant sporting achievements, bringing Italy from the outskirts to the heart of international sailing. Well, okay, that's a bit of an overstatement, but and its role in nurturing new talent. In the last 3 years with Max Serena, we built a strong team that is reminiscent of our 2000 beginnings when they beat our team, Julia. Do you remember that?
More than I care to.
Yes, when they beat us in the LVC finals in Auckland. Our team being America One. America One, representing the St. Francis Yacht Club. Okay, so with Max, we built a strong team that is reminiscent of our 2000 beginnings. Bertelli said, quote, continues, a team defined by a strong sense of belonging, passion, advanced technology, and many young talents, not just sailors, but also technical experts. We have a solid foundation to launch our next challenge,
I do admire the way they've sort of fostered their young folks.
Well, they seem to, and the women. I mean, their women team looks pretty good, too. Here's some breaking news. Milton has re-strengthened the Cat 5. It's a doozy. That from Fog Machine. No announcements from the USA, Gordon Smith. We'll see. As I said, we may have some news for you on Friday. In the meantime, the only other video that I really liked that I thought all of you would enjoy seeing, is this also out of the Brits, about one of their rowers turned cyclors on the team, and a cool video from Ineos Britannia.
I was a member of the GB rowing team. I'd say like most of the new people here all come from rowing. Very randomly, my cousin got tickets to watch rowing at the 2012 Olympics, and like honestly didn't know anything about rowing. I came from a small town in the north of England where rowing wasn't a thing. There was no clubs anywhere. And I was like, what is this new sport? Like, I've never seen this before. I remember like me and my dad walked the course and there was like a talent ID thing there. And it was like, are you over 6'2"? Are you this, this, and this? And my dad's like, I think you fit that mold. Sport was like a big part of our family from a young age, and like my dad and my dad's brother, they were big into rugby and like very competitive, so like grew up with sport and competition. So I knew like what the top level looked like. So I joined the local boat club. There was 4 of us at uni, and then like the rest is history. I kind of like had my head set on like, okay, if I'm gonna do this sport, like I'm gonna take it as far as I can. But I was pretty late to starting. I think when I started taking it seriously, I was 20, 21. So compared to a lot of people, that's really late. But I also had that vision and that ambition that, yeah, I was going to take this as far as I can. I got a scholarship to Durham University, Big Rowing University, and that's where it really kicked off. And I moved on to Leander Club. So it was kind of like in a way, like a blind faith, but like I knew I wanted to be at the top level. I got hold of all the erg scores from around the country, like put them in a spreadsheet, and I was like, this is where I need to be. Like, here I am now, but if I want to make it, I need to be at this score. I'd say I'm a very ambitious person. And when I set my head to a goal, like I do go the nth degree to achieve that.
The official challenger of record, Ineos Britannia, are the first team through to the Louis Vuitton Cup final.
I didn't know when I set out this where I'd be, but for me, like, this is amazing. When I moved to the America's Cup World, I brought 0 sailing experience with me, and my first ever sailing experience was on T6. I sat in the back of a following yacht going the best part of 40 knots, and that was my first ever experience of sailing. But since then, I have done my level 1 and 2 RYA sailing course in Picos. Giving up my Olympic dream was really hard at first. Like, I'd spent 8, 9 years committed to one dream, and I was well ingrained in that system. And then the opportunity to be part of a team that's going for the America's Cup, something they've never done before, this year really feels like it could be the campaign to do it. I don't want to miss that opportunity to be part of this, and I want to be part of that team pushing to win it for the first ever time.
Don't mind. Keep pushing. Pressure. Keep the pushing. Hard to call it, isn't it? Yeah.
Now that guy has a voice.
Yes.
He must have cojones down.
Yeah, very low.
He's got a great voice. He should be on the radio, if not TV.
He's got a face for radio.
Well, he's a great, good-looking guy. I think he should be on TV. So let's see what happens now. That nice video from Ineos Britannia.
It was a good one.
You like that one?
Yep.
I agree. Note on YouTube, stream suspended for policy violations. Stream suspended for policy violations on YouTube. What? Our stream? Or somebody else's stream? I don't know what that's all about. Have we been knocked off YouTube, you guys? Tell me if we have. Note on YouTube, stream suspended for policy violations. I don't know what we did. We've had no problems with YouTube, actually. So tell me if maybe something here we've just run has caused problems. But we actually, the LDS, who owns the rights, has come back and said no problems for us. So I don't know what's going on, if we've just lost YouTube. And if so, I hope people will come over and join us on Facebook. I don't know what we've done, what that has offended YouTube, but if it has,
I don't know.
Uh-oh, Tom, they're coming for you. You mentioned the T word. What was the T word, Julia?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. Yes, YouTube just turned black. John Lamberts Van Buren, you got a copyright strike midstream. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know which of those videos. It may have been that recap video. I don't know. It was Trump. You are black on YouTube, replying to... Okay, well, hope you can catch back up to us on Facebook. That's never happened before. We'll see after the show what that's all about. Julia, in the meantime, do you care now to make your prediction?
For
the match, which starts on Saturday if there's wind.
Well, I think it would be fun to have
Who do you think is going to win, Julia, the Brits or the Kiwis? In your brain, not your heart. You're not Graham Sweeney.
Oh, the Brits.
The Brits are going to win.
Yep.
In how many races?
4.
Okay. 4. Well, it's first to win 7.
7, okay.
You think the Kiwis are going to win 4 races?
Yeah.
They're going to win 7-4.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's ask everyone else to start to massage their crystal ball and tell us what's happening come this weekend. We should have 4 races if the weather cooperates, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, and we should have some pretty good idea whether one team is up, tell me what, 3-1 or 4-0, or the other team is up 3-1 or 4-0, or
they're even.
They're tied.
I would imagine they're going to be even for a while.
YouTube is back up? Really? John Emmett? Yeah, I see Bing Bong. I don't know what that was all about. Okay. Maybe they just had a problem. Maybe it was that Trump thing that you put up. I don't know what it was. Let's see. We got a lot of others coming in here now. The Brits in 6, Clayt Embley says. I hope Clark Chapin or one of you, Mark Holland, one of you is making a note of these predictions because we want to talk about this on Saturday morning. Mark Holland, I agree, Graham. It's irritating. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe the fake DJT release on Sailing Anarchy did it. The timing seems about right. Did somebody put that release up? Did you all? I didn't click to it, so I don't think it made it onto the show, but maybe, Julia, maybe just the link caused us to get knocked off.
Yeah.
YouTube is back up. Okay, well, I don't know what that was all about. Clayt Embley, Brits in 6, Bing Bong, Ineos in 11. So, Julia, that is William Sangmeister agreeing with you. Rob Fry says his crystal ball has shattered. He, of course, is a Kiwi. The Brits are race-hardened, but the Kiwis have some new go-fast stuff on board, Jody Shields says.
Oh, yeah, I'm afraid of that.
Okay, John Sweeney. Hi, John. Here in the Bay Area says 7-1 to Ineos. ETNZ 7, Ineos 4. There's somebody, that's Peter Worcester, Julia, agreeing with your race count, but saying it's the Kiwis are going to win, not the Brits.
Yeah, that's...
Alan Long says, I'll agree with what Graham and Gordon say. Clark Chapin voting with his heart, I'll go with the Brits. Well, he's voting with his heart, but what's your brain tell you, Clark Chapin? Tier de Jong says the Brits will win the cup. David James, it has to be 7-0 one way or the other. I doubt it, David. I doubt it. I think it'll be 7-1 or 7-2 one way or the other, but I'm going to withhold I don't want to.
Well, that's not fair.
Well, I will, but come on. I've always taken, I'm the one who said Ben ought to get off the boat. That was about the most Croutonic thing I've said, it looks like.
Yeah.
Unless he really wets the bed here now in the match, in the finals. No commentators' curses, please. Going to be close and hard fought, Martin Latimer is saying. It's going to come down to a single race. Graham Sweeney, I hope you're right, but somehow I doubt it. Brits in 8. So he's saying it'll be 7-1. Bob Walker is saying 7-1 to the Brits. I don't know what that's all about. Did the Kiwis change the number of races in the series when they won in Bermuda? Yes, I think that's correct. YouTube is back up. They must have had a silly glitch. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but I'm glad they're back up. Ineos 7, Team New Zealand 5. Henry Thorpe. Hello, Henry. Why are we looking at clocks? Are we looking at clocks? I'll show you some clocks. If you want to look at clocks, John Emmett. And then another John Lambert's Van Buren. Britannia is a different boat from what we saw 3 weeks ago. Can't wait for the lineup. He is flying to Barcelona on Thursday. Is going to maybe get some.
Julie Ahrens is leaving tomorrow.
She's leaving tomorrow on Wednesday from Cleveland to go. Alistair Murray says 5-2. Well, it's going to be 7-something. First to win 7, Alistair. So are you saying 7-2 for New Zealand? Only the software knows, Clayt Embley is saying. What are the betting markets? Anybody look at what the London markets are saying? I don't think there's anything in Vegas yet, in Las Vegas. 7-2 ETNZ. Well, Brits in 10, Yarvahe is saying. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people think, and I assume you're saying that the Brits are in your brain, not your heart. I'd love to see the Brits win this. There's no doubt. I think there's at least a chance if the Brits win, it will not go to Jeddah, but maybe it's going to go to Jeddah anyway. Maybe. I think one of the reasons Patrizio is back in is because the Middle East is a big market for Prada.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he doesn't mind if it goes to Jeddah.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
I think you're right. I hadn't thought about it, but you're right.
Clocks tell you when daylight saving starts, Brits to win. One thing is certain, a former 49er medalist skipper will win the cup. Well, there's a point. There's a point. By the way, we've got Ben Remacher coming on the show next Tuesday. I think it's next Tuesday. And can't find a bookmaker with a real price in pounds. Okay, well, there's a lot of opinions here. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting, regardless, Julia. I think it's going to be interesting. Any other predictions? The double main sheet to bring New Zealand to their knees. They have a rather simpler main sheet system on that Kiwi boat, as you know. Alistair Murray's saying 7-2 now to New Zealand. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I think on Friday. And that's not because I'm holding out. I've already told several of you privately what I think, but I want to see what everybody else thinks before I put my 2 cents in here, Julia.
Okay.
I hope the Brits win. I'll say that. If I'm speaking from my heart, I hope they win. But we shall see. And remember, the last couple of cups. The last cup was the first time the challenger of record, who was last time was the Italians.
Oh, that's right.
The challenger of record got to the match. That's never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
This time, the challenger of record, the Royal Yacht Squadron Racing, Royal Yacht Squadron, has gotten to the match as the DBA, doing business as the challenger of record.
Right.
So 2 times in a row now, after years of it not happening, it never happened before,
Yeah.
the challenger of record has gotten through. But the challenger of record not only hasn't gotten through, but they've never won the cup.
Yeah.
So if the Brits were to go through, which we'll see, and if they then, well, they're going through, but if they then win the cup as the challenger record, that will be a big deal. Mm-hmm. Now, in single, when there hasn't been multiple challengers, when there's only been one challenger, that happened when the only challenger, who was therefore technically the challenger record, was us in 2010 with that boat behind me. We were the single challenger. We went, of course, we were in the match and won.
Yeah.
But that isn't really what we're talking about here, multiple challengers. The fastest boat will win, John Emmett says. I think that's a fair comment, but this is going to be a little weird to know for sure who is the fastest boat because the conditions are going to be so weird.
Yes.
It is too small a, here we go, John's giving us too small a sample to go down the route as the challenger has previously. Alistair Banks, the America's Cup is going to go to Scarborough up near Andrew Pindar if Ineos wins. Well, that'll be interesting to see. Steve Gruber asked me who was the challenger of record in '87. It was the Italians, Steve Gruber. The challenger of record in 1987 was the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda on their very fine performance. In their first cup, which was Newport 83, Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, led by the late, great Gianfranco Alberini, and did a very fine job as the challenger record in Australia 87, COR to the Royal Perth Yacht Club. And of course, the challenger record didn't get through to the finals either because it was Team Dennis Conner Stars and Stripes San Diego Yacht Club. Mm-hmm. Henry Thorpe, the new Isle of Wight MP, Member of Parliament, mentioned that the AC in the House of Commons today, he mentioned the AC today in the House of Commons in the UK, which was a nice touch.
Indeed.
Bing Bong is saying if they win it, it should be on the Thames, on the River Thames, like the Extreme 40s. Okay, I don't know about all that. Hamish Ross, about the Italians. Who's Hamish? Who do you think's going to win, Hamish? He demurred above. Come on, Hamish, tell us who you think's going to win. Your hometown Kiwis, and of course Hamish resigned from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron over the Kiwis taking the event to Barcelona.
As well he should have, yes.
As well he should have, I agree. And so did Jim Farmer, another Fozy and good friend. Do they have the Isle of Wight in Jeddah? Alex Hayworth is asking. Graham Sweeney, they won't be racing AC-75s off cows, that's for sure.
That's true, too.
Okay, well, there's a lot of poo sticks. Yeah, we're back on poo sticks. The Thames Estuary, the Thames Estuary could be a thing. Great suggestion, Gordon Smith is saying. Okay, well, I hope there's some more video, Julia, coming out in the next few days because there's been precious little. This should be the build-up to what should be an interesting match.
Yes.
A lot of people on here, I think, are not just hoping the Brits will win. I think there's a lot of people who think the Brits will win.
Yes.
And I certainly hope they're right. I have my doubts, as you know, Julia, and a couple others of you know. But we shall soon see. Okay, let's wrap this one up and get, we're an hour and 42 minutes into this show. And I'm glad YouTube has come back to us. This is that famously cool painting, The Last Leg to Gloucester by the American Thomas Hoyne. A fairly recent painting. It was done in '82. And we honor Morris Stevens and others up there in old Canada with this thing. This, of course, we used to commemorate, to open our segment we called The Last Leg, which is coming up here a week from Saturday, is the 2024 Rolex Middle Sea Race. And they have drawn an impressive fleet for that race in Malta. It starts in Malta, ends in Malta. A close, I think that meant at close of business on Friday the 20th of September. The Middle Sea Race, the Rolex Middle Sea Race, which starts on the 19th, a week from this Saturday, had amassed a fleet of 110 yachts. The entrants represented fully 29 countries, from Australia in the south to Finland in the north, from the U.S. in the west to Hong Kong in the east, either side of Malta. It is an exceptional, diverse, and highly competitive fleet. The Royal Malta Yacht Club and its race organizing committee are thrilled with the continued enthusiasm shown for this classic yacht race. I think this is the 45th edition. Should anyone still wish to join the adventure, I think that's now closed. They do have the ability to let late entries in, but you've got Blackjack is racing, the boat there in the photo. You've got Scallywag, the other 100-footer, both 30.48 meters long. The smallest yacht is a Mutley BDM Audit at 32 feet, 9.75 meters. And remarkably, France, with 21 crews, is matching Italy for the most entries, a first for the race. There's but one multi-hull, the Rapido 53 XS Picamole, launched in April of 2023, which successfully took on the Aegean 600 earlier this year. Great to see the Middle Sea Race is becoming a great Mediterranean fixture, and Malta a very cool place for races. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Steve Atkins, all you guys said LRPP would dominate, and you were so wrong. Yes, we were, Steve Atkins. I picked LRPP to win, and I may be wrong in my prediction. Again, we shall see. Stingray wants to know how somebody can earn a finger wag today, Julia.
I don't know.
Huh?
It's not my call.
That is your call. You're the one who does the finger wag. I have a video from Rolex, as you would expect, about this race starting a week from Saturday, the Rolex Middle Sea Race. Enjoy.
The Rolex Middle Sea Race is an iconic race, and I was very fortunate to be a part of it a couple of years ago. The start out of Valletta is unbelievable. It's a very tight harbour, and I was on a 100-foot boat, Comanche, just trying to get out of such a tight harbour with all these huge boats.
The 45th edition of the Rolex Middle Sea Race starts from Malta on Saturday the 19th of October and will feature an impressive international fleet from more than 25 countries.
The Rolex Middle Sea race is a superb race, it's an iconic race because it's really in a venue that is super special.
Organised by the Royal Malta Yacht Club, the race comprises a 606 nautical mile circumnavigation of Sicily. Highlights include 2 active volcanoes, as well as the wild beauty of the surrounding islands. There are several distinct sections, each providing a stringent test of sailing prowess.
One of the very challenging areas to cross is the Strait of Messina. So if you arrive with a current that is running against your course and the winds are very light, it's a very challenging passage to go through.
You race around Sicily, around all the islands. You have to do a 360, which means you have to do so many different points of sail, upwind, downwind reaching. You really get it all in the Rolex Middle Sea race.
The fleet is made up of professionally crewed yachts and a number of more Corinthian competitors. The fastest entries competing for line honours will aim to finish within 48 hours, but for the majority of entrants, the race takes 4 to 6 days.
It's a must-do for every serious big boat sailor in Europe.
It's such a challenge, but when you complete it, it's something you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Rolex does make the nicest videos,
They
don't
do.
they?
I'm reminded, though, that we have a Fosi from the Malta Yacht Club.
Several.
Several.
And has there been any, speaking of videos, Mark Holland asking, has there been any video coverage of the J-Boat Regatta? I haven't seen any. I've seen some photos, but I haven't seen any videos. I do think that if John Lamberts Van Buren gets there, when he gets there, which I believe he will Thursday, the J-Boats will still be racing, and he has promised some video for us, which would be appreciated.
Oh, that'd be great.
And if John Emmett and if John and Lily get there, they're talking about going there because she so dislikes the British winter. And if they get down there in time for this regatta, that would be nice. We get some video out of that. Stingray trying to get a finger wag, Julia. He says, protect the cream, the bourbon cream from Julia. She can move faster than you realize. Huh?
Yes.
Has that helped you? You've been. We should pour a little bit of that in your coffee at the start of every show.
Absolutely.
Does that clear your head?
Absolutely.
It must be good stuff from Clayton Allen Embley.
I recommend it.
You commend it. Okay. Well, nice video from Rolex, and that is the 14th. The 45th edition, starting a week from Saturday. That's 606 nautical mile. Now a classic. I mean, it's one of the great ocean races in the modern history of the world. There's a nice photo floating around. I don't think I put it in the show, but this morning you saw Svea, I think it was, or one of the J-boats in the background with the Kiwis. Did you see that photo? And we'll try to get some more stuff about the J-boats. We all like them, including and especially Julia and myself. We'll try to get some J-boat coverage in Friday's show. Since we are going to do 2 shows on Friday, I'll probably be dead of a heart attack Friday afternoon.
I'll loan you some bourbon cream.
You will? Maybe I need to go back to drinking.
Well, not necessarily, but a little bourbon cream for a wake up.
Graham Sweeney says you know how to get well oiled. Julia, okay. Yeah, so many races around 600 nautical miles. Well, that is the sweet spot. I mean, that's the Bermuda race is a few more miles than that, 630 something. The Sydney Hobart's 600 and something. The Fastnet race a little longer now that they're going over to France to finish, but that has been the for these big ocean races more or less the distance, the standard distance. Okay, we are Julia to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Everything in moderation, including bourbon cream.
Thank you,
Alan Long. And now that we're here, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, we have only two funnies today. You all weren't very funny this week, or if you sent them, I didn't see them, but both from Ted Ryman. That's got to be a good 12 inches, he says. You want to read the next one, Julia?
That explains a few things.
Yeah, P. Diddy, those of you following that case here in the States, man, there was some salacious stuff that came out in the press this morning about him and underage boys and girls. Awful.
I'm not reading any of that necessarily.
Awful. I'm trying not to. It's just, that's another strange situation. But yes, thank you, Ted Ryman, for that. It does explain a lot of things about, at least about fishermen anyway.
Right.
And then finally, we have a caption contest. I hope this doesn't get us, Julia, I hope this doesn't get us knocked off YouTube.
Of course not.
Huh?
No.
Yeah, Hamish Ross is saying, let's get some footage from the Saint-Tropez Classics racing. We'll try to find that, Hamish. But back to our caption contest, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
You have a dead John Emmett is saying dead meat. That's a good one. Trump steak. Graham Sweeney is saying, that's a good one. Anybody else? This came from Ted Ryman.
Yes. It's a good one.
It's a good one. Well, the winning caption, unless anybody's got another one to offer up here, this one is called, according to, that's the meat to beat in 30 days, Fog Machine is saying.
Yes.
Where's the beef, Hamish Ross is asking. There's some good ones there, Julia.
Yeah.
But the one that I think takes the cake, so to speak, no pun intended, I vote for John's entry, Clark Che. All you guys on the left don't want Trump to win. Look at this. Look, it has no ears, Graham Sweeney. Fathead. Prime, Mark Holland is saying. Well, enough of this. The winner, we think, is Donald Rump. You like that?
All right.
That came through from Ted Ryman. Yes. Both the cartoon, but also the winning caption for that one. Okay, we are truly, through, no ear on the left, to the finish line here for this show, 760. We're going to beat 800 here pretty soon, Julia.
Yes.
And you like to say...
Yes, don't miss the opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Indeed.
Particularly share. In fact, do it now.
Do it now, before the spray tan. Alan Long talking about Trump's spray tan. We don't want 45 to win for a good reason. I still like John's entry. Yeah, well, some people do like 45, hoping that he'll win. And, of course, half the country, it seems pretty even in terms of the polls, and that election is in 30 days, which we'll try not to talk about anymore on this show. Comments are welcome, even in replay. Thanks to all of you who do give us some support via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Become a patron, give us a few bucks. Help keep our studio, which continues to improve, Julia. We now have 4 4K cameras here in the studio.
Wow.
And I'm going to do some testing here in the next couple days before we get serious on Friday and Saturday and Sunday with all these 4 shows in 3 days. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I think you're going to need a little bourbon.
Ed Worley says, yes, please, no politics. No, I'm not drinking. I've quit drinking, Julia. For better or worse, I've quit drinking. Thanks also to everybody who's let us have audio, video, and images for today's show. Final thought, Julia. You want some more of that bourbon cream?
No, I don't. I have some in it. Thank you.
Well, you could have some more, you know.
No, I'm going to save it.
Huh?
I'll save it.
I got to show it again and give a little plug here to, I think he's going to send us some more, too. It is better than Bailey's and coffee.
Well, it's very good.
Okay. Well, thanks to Clayton and Emily for that.
Indeed.
Thanks, everyone. Good to have us back in the groove. We will be back in the groove again on Friday with our regular 1300 show, and then at it 0500 Friday and 0500 Saturday and Sunday. Everybody in Florida, please be safe. Take good care. We're going to be following that storm, and we'll get an update. Maybe we'll get an update from, if he's not incommunicado, if Bill Wingrove's got a phone and internet connection, he's going to be inland safe with his, I think he said his son's home. So stay safe, all of you in Florida. Keep us posted, if you will, and we'll get Bill Wingrove on here on Friday to tell us what has happened. In the meantime, just confirming our upcoming schedule. 767 will be our Friday morning watch party at 0500 Pacific, noon UTC, 1200 UTC. And we'll cover the WAC semis, those 6 teams going forward out of groups A and B, and then we will do our regular show, God, the internet, and my heart willing, we'll do a regular show Friday afternoon at 1300 PDT. And then we'll do watch parties both Saturday morning for the races 1 and 2, and also the, we think, now the women's semis is Friday. When are the women's finals? We got the women's finals, I guess, also. That's on Sunday morning between those two races, which should be 3 and 4, not 2 and 3, coming up Sunday morning at 500. Those watch parties getting up here at 4 o'clock.
The problem is that I'm so used to it. I'm waking up at 3 and being.
Well, that is the problem. Once you're kind of on that schedule, it's hard to get off it. It's called jet lag. It's called watch party lag.
Yeah.
Okay, Milton, I've got the coordinates for Mar-a-Lago. Alan Long is saying, I don't think it's going to go over toward Miami. I think the problem is on the West Coast, particularly up on the Tampa-St. Pete area. Okay, everybody, thank you. We're all under 2 hours, just barely, for this show. We'll see you again Friday morning at 0500. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week. And our new outro song, so we don't have, because we had some problems with those intro and outro songs we were using for many shows. These don't seem to cause any problems with anybody. So sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.